Call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for April 19th, 2021. You can just pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty, we'll start it off with the reorg meeting. Everyone can see what's up on the screen. So I'll just run down the list. Deputy Mayor, Trustee Windward, Street Commissioner, Trustee Maroney, Auditing Committee, Trustee Windward, Personnel, Trustee Maloney, Building Maintenance, Trustee Maloney, Recreation, Trustee Zinovich. Please tell me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Greenway Liaison, Trustee Zinovich, Liaison, Village of Cold Spring, Trustee Windward, Liaison to the Town of Phillipstown, Trustee Maloney, Emergency Services, Trustee Maroney, Building Inspector, William Bajarski, Acting Justice, Steve Tolman, Village Attorney, Daniel Sporco and Luzardi, Interim Village Clerk and Treasurer, Pauline Minners, Interim Records Access Officer, Pauline Minners, Interim Court Clerk, Pauline Minners, the official bank, M&T Bank, the official newspaper, the PCNR, and Village Historian is vacant. And if anybody out there in the crowd knows of anybody, preferably with some technology skills, that has a love of history and would like to digitize photos or documents, please have them reach out to us. Jonathan Bradley resigned last fall and it's been vacant since. I'll make a motion that the board sets 7:30 p.m. on the third Monday of the month as the regular meeting night and authorize the treasurer to purchase postage and pay utility bills prior to board approval. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I mean, we had discussed it, in the past of maybe changing meeting times, but I think, with lockdown and all that, that the 7 o'clock workshop and 7:30 board meeting seemed to work for everyone. But if when things go back to normal, if commuting schedules or something get in the way, please let us know. Any questions on appointments? Maria, I didn't hear from you, so I kind of I put you in direct and Greenway. Kathleen reached out, wanted the Town of Phillipstown, but again, if anyone's interested in any of the other ones, just we work as kind of a team on everything. So these are recommendations and not things that live and die by.
Work well for me, so no objection on my end.
Great. Approval of vouchers. Everyone had a chance to review, which I don't know if I have a copy of those. Do I, Pauline?
Probably not. I have the copy here.
Yeah, everyone had a chance to go in and review those?
Yes. The total claims comes to $15,429.64. That's what you're approving.
Was there any questions on any of the bills for this month?
No.
No.
We did have one layover from last meeting, some questions about the use of plowing equipment. And Mark, I did direct Mindy to pay it, but we are going to sit down with Mark and have a discussion about in the future any extra costs in terms of plowing, or when we get excessive snowfall, things need to be kind of approved through us in a very, very clear manner. There was a little bit of a miscommunication with the clerk, and it got kind of lost in translation last time around. But I didn't want to hold it up on Mark over $1,000 or whatever it was, and he did do a ton of work over the winter with a lot of the snow. But there is definitely some legal issues surrounding renting of equipment from someone that we contract with. So we're going to have that discussion with them. On these vouchers, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Maybe we should start raising hands. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anything opposed? All right. Correspondence. I believe I have these. Pauline, do you want to walk through these or do you want me to?
Well, let's see, where we at here?
First up is Katie Brennan from Brook Street.
Right, Katie wrote a formal letter of complaint. I will read it. Dear clerks, board member, mayor, and building inspector for Nelsonville. I am writing this email to file a formal complaint against the owners of 3 Brook Street in Nelsonville. The new owners have very quickly started digging up and burying pipes on the property, as well as bringing in potential toxic material. 20 huge tanks were delivered yesterday and lined up along the Foundry Brook, which we know empties into the Hudson River. They started again at 7 a.m. this morning, bringing down more used tanks. I am concerned about the environmental impact of having tanks and trucks coming and going from this wetland. I have received no notification, and I am concerned about the sneakiness, speed, and lack of transparency at which they are proceeding. I am happy to talk to anyone at any time and would like to put them on the agenda for the next board meeting. But I believe that by then they will have already buried much of the evidence. Thank you for your quick action in dealing with this highly illegal and time-sensitive solution. Sincerely, Kate Brennan.
We can deal with this now. The Brennans are here, correct?
Yes.
Does anybody else hear that feedback? You hear it?
Yeah.
I couldn't hear. Can you unmute us?
You're good.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, we're just saying that we're hearing a lot of feedback. I don't know if we can, what to do that about that, Mike.
I'm just trying to see whose feed it's coming from.
You just cut it out.
Yeah, it may be coming from Pauline. I just muted her. Sorry, Pauline. So to address this, as soon as we got the letter, I was accompanied by a bunch of phone calls. The building inspector went out to the site, and I went there personally as well. Talked to the workers. Originally they were telling us that the tanks were going to be stored inside, but they're now going to be stored outside. From the building inspector side of things, he went and looked. It's not a change of use because of the zoning currently is for warehouse use. There's been no gap in use of the building. Sandy Saunders has always been there getting deliveries and doing whatever Sandy was doing there. I'm not positive exactly. Moving forward, the wetland issue was definitely brought out. The tanks are going to be moved away from the wetland. I think it's a minimum of 25 feet, but Bill has asked them to move them 50 feet. And I also asked them to move them to elsewhere on the property where they're not as visible to the residents on Brook Street. The excavation that was going on site, I'm being told, was for drains from the building that tie into a main drain that goes out towards Peekskill Road. They were also trying to locate the septic field for the building. Beyond that, the building inspector is telling me, and he consulted with the planning board chair, Steve Marino, that since there's no change of use of the property, it doesn't trigger review by the planning board. And Bill is following the letter of the law and is telling me that there's no nefarious thing going on there. The tanks are empty, brand new, steel cylinder propane tanks. They've done some berm work and plantings, and they're putting a fence around the property. I don't know if that addresses all of your concerns or not. I know that it's kind of jarring to see a piece of property go back into use, but unless there's a clear violation or a clear change of use or a clear, a reason for the village to step in legally, we're kind of bound to allow a property owner to do what they can with their property within the confines of the law. I don't know if you have any questions, or we can address them now, or we can do it later in the meeting.
This is Craig Brenner. I have a question about this.
Yep.
Do they plan on doing any kind of storage of oils and propanes on this site?
No, that was made clear to them that the zoning of the property does not allow that. If they do store their trucks or any kind of filled propane canisters or cylinders there, that would be a change of use, and that definitely would trigger, in the very least, a review by the planning board.
Okay.
And that's been made clear to the new owner by at least 3 individuals. So,
Okay.
and not only does the building inspector have eyes on this, we know that all of the adjoining property owners have eyes on it. So I don't anticipate them to try to go that route.
So it's just a storage
Facility.
Yeah, it's going to be a storage yard for new equipment for those propane cylinders. Their truck yard over on 9D is still going to be used to store their trucks. It's not supposed to have any kind of vehicle. Right?
So would there be coming and going with the trucks back and forth? How often is that going to happen? Just
I'm not sure. Only during their business hours. I'm assuming when they need to get equipment from there. So I wouldn't expect it to be all hours of the night or day or anything like that. It's going to be like during 9 to 5. I'm assuming, but again, there's no law against them. They could go in there at 2 in the morning for a delivery. Unless they're making a large racket, that would trigger some kind of noise complaint or something like that. And Sandy Saunders is actually staying, I guess, using the interior of the building still.
okay. Yeah, just my main concern is just if there's anything flammable, I have a family and,
In large quantities.
in large quantities.
Yeah, no, that especially with the wetland there, and it's definitely leading into the Hudson River. It's been made clear that's not allowed.
Okay,
Great.
that's very good news.
Good. Letter from the Putnam County Legislature about keeping Putnam beautiful. Let's see.
Sorry, Mike, just to interrupt. I think Katie's trying to
Yeah.
talk. She was muted.
I finally got it off mute. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Katie.
You had mentioned the visibility from the neighbors. There was really no business happening there. And when they came, and it was blocked, the whole building was blocked by trees, and all of the trees were taken down. So now from my living room window and my whole house is just this incredible eyesore. I know they put a couple of trees up, but it doesn't block the structure.
I understand. Again, there's
Nothing about not being neighborly.
Yeah, I know it's a real hard kind of line to walk, but I mean, unless it's a large project like the cell tower that has a major site plan revision or a site plan approval that delineates tree cutting and all of that, there's no law that prevents a private property owner from cutting trees down. The one positive thing is they are going to put a block, kind of a fence between those 2 berms.
It's a chain link fence.
Yeah.
I'm also afraid that it's going to have a junkyard kind of qualities. Would that be a change of use?
If they were storing, disused equipment there. Yeah. And I, when I was talking before about it not having kind of a prolonged lapse in use, as long as Sandy Saunders was keeping current on the taxes and, it wasn't an abandoned property, then there wasn't a gap in use. So, I mean, unless, he went to open up a car dealership there or something like that, it was a drastic change in use. Bill's telling me that this kind of storage of, empty propane tanks is within the warehouse zoning that's there. But it's tough because I know it affects you guys directly, and then I have other people stop me on the street and they're happy to see the building being used for something because they thought it was an eyesore before, and it's it's a matter of taste, I guess. But again, you live right next door, so I know how jarring it is to see a property change in use, not change in use, but be used more frequently, I guess.
Thank you for letting us talk now instead of waiting for the whole meeting. I know that we're most of the audience, but
Yeah, I didn't want to, unless you want to, sit through our refuse and recycling bid and, the marijuana law out and a couple other things on the agenda, I thought I'd give you guys a chance to speak now.
thank you. Much appreciated.
And again, like I said earlier, you guys are right next door. So if you see the, storage of things that aren't supposed to be there, definitely call the office and the building inspector will investigate it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Am I on?
Next up is the letter from Putnam County. This is just about keeping Putnam beautiful. Pauline, I can run through it real quick if you want. In March of last year, we received a letter about the reinstatement of Keep Putnam Beautiful. Kind of the Cliff Note version is that was supposed to take place back in April of last year. It got canceled because of the pandemic. So they're doing kind of a kickoff again for this year. They're hoping that since everyone is kind of doing the vaccination thing and we know a lot more now about the virus, that they can do it in a socially distanced kind of way, wearing masks and following all the protocols. Attached is the Putnam County Legislature presentation for the Putnam County Beautiful Initiative. And if anyone has any other questions about this, it'll be posted up to the website. It's being spearheaded by Jenny Narciano from District 4 on the other side of the county. NICOM guidance on budget treatment of rescue plan funds. This is just the roadside cleanup litter event flyer. Let's see. Pauline, do you want to speak to this one? Oh, you're muted. There you go. Nope, still muted. There you go.
All right. The reason we took the money out of the budget originally was because the one line here, it says NICOM's recommendations is that you do not include these funds in your budget until the Treasury Department issues its regulations and final allocation figures are released. They're right there.
So don't put the cart before the horse, basically.
Exactly.
All righty. OSI annual easement monitoring. We get these periodically from Open Space. They'll be visiting the Nelsonville Woods parcel, the 110 acres thereabouts, and doing assessment about the easement stipulations. So just making sure that we're living up to our end of the bargain by keeping it open and free to everybody, and we haven't fenced it off and are putting up no trespassing signs or something like that. One of the issues that they found in the past is that people had cut in parking spaces into the forest that had to be addressed and that kind of thing. So they'll be out and about. So if you see them in the woods, say hello.
Mike, on that, do you think that we could organize with them when they're coming so that we can try to meet up with them? I know
Yeah.
I have some questions, and our new OSI coordinator would probably, Maria, would like to.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah,
make
that was gonna be my question as well. Like, do we have a date? Because, it'd be nice to kind of show ourselves and say hello.
they don't. Will Nevis, who's kind of our contact at OSI, he's now moved his office up to the Hudson Valley, so he's around more. After this evening, I was going to send kind of an invite email to kind of loop you in with Will, so he knows who he's going to be working with. He's really flexible, so he'll work us in either in a morning or an afternoon. And if you want to join him up on his kind of monitoring hike, he's probably more than willing to do that. I did that 2 or 3 years ago, and we got caught in a major downpour and soaked. But yeah, so there's Will Nevis, and then I can loop you in with the OSI attorneys as well, so that if any questions ever come up in terms of trees or anything like that, you'll know who the contact info is.
Yeah, that would be great.
Next up is the letter from Heidi. I don't know if anybody wants to speak to this, or Heidi, you want to jump on now or wait till later on in the public comment section? If not,
I can if Heidi doesn't want to.
No, I can talk now.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so much. And so Chris met with me this morning, and also I wanted to just commend you guys because you got a really good rating for open government in the paper, which is great, and I hugely appreciate it. I mean, I guess I'm more appreciated after you got the highest possible rating for open government, and thank you so much.
This was in the current.
Yeah, it was in the current, you know.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys got the highest possible rating for listening to people from the public, which is great, you know. And I especially appreciate it. But and Chris met with me this morning, but can I just talk now because maybe I have to jump off?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'll be very fast. I was just wondering how much, so I hugely appreciate that Chris met with me this morning to talk about the woods, about my letter. And I guess I just wanted to follow up, one, that I am disappointed that the village is doing nothing for Earth Day. Just get that off the table, I guess. I think we should have done something, but because obviously that's huge, very important for the next generation of children and, you know, the next generation in Nelsonville to do something for the Earth Day celebration, you know, every year. But anyway, but the more important thing is how much money was spent. Chris kindly told me that there doesn't need to be a line item in the budget for the woods because it's encompassed in the recreation budget. And it a little bit disappoints me to hear that the bulk of the recreation budget was spent on I understand that that's a Vietnam vet, you know, memorial across the street, but I think most people in the village use the woods. So, I mean, I think there's a much higher use of the woods. So I'm just wondering how much money last year was spent specifically on the woods. Can you just tell me that?
The woods itself.
The woods, specifically the woods, not the OSI easement, which I'm very much appreciative of having happened, but how much money was spent on the woods
I
last year?
can say that I don't know of any funds that were spent on the woods last year, but that is not because we don't care about the woods.
Well,
and that we prioritized the park over it. It was just the park was due, and we noticed that.
Okay, this is not to say that I don't appreciate everything you guys do, but I think next year let's try a little harder to spend some money on the woods. Can we? Can we just try that? You know, if possible, because I think that's important. I think it's important to a lot of people. I get emails from random people just saying, hey, guess what? The witch hazels have leaves. A lot of people care and are very excited about the plantings in the woods. Let's just try harder next year. Can we?
Yeah.
I think it's a big deal to a lot of people. And I really appreciate that you guys hear me out. I mean, I especially hear it. I especially appreciate it because obviously not every district in Putnam County allows it. So you guys do, and I really appreciate it. But let's try harder next year if we can.
Heidi, I'll just say a couple things real quick. Your letter is very detailed, and there's definitely some ideas in there of things we can spend money on in the woods. Like Chris said, we did allocate money to the park just because it was getting to the point where the kiosk there, I either wanted to tear it down completely or fix it. And the rest of the board voted to fix it. I would have been okay if it was gone because we still don't have a use for it. It still has nothing in it. But we did redo the benches and the handrails and things that need to be done there. The woods, I think one of the kind of the positive things, but doesn't look great on a budget, is that we've become very dependent upon volunteers for there. So, people like Paul Helbach has been blazing the trails for the last 20 years and nobody really knew about it. We didn't have to expend any money on it because he had a huge inventory of trail tags and things like that. The volunteers have really been chipping in to cut the trees down when they're taken down, when they fall down in storms and things like that. But there's definitely, the invasive species thing has been kind of, brought to the forefront in the last couple of years, definitely by you even more. But there's other things we need to spend money on up there. We just had a tree come down and crush one of our security gates that's going to need to be repaired. There's a section of trail off of the back of Secor here that's got to be kind of raised up and kind of engineered a little bit better by the trail conference. I mean, it's going to have a little bit of a cost to us, but nothing extravagant. So there's definitely, you've seen the recreation money that's there, and there's, it's not like there's not a will to use it. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and
And you can hold me to it, which I know you will.
Well, I mean, I don't think it has to do with, cutting trees and, I don't know. Yeah.
No, I know. What I'm saying is that you've brought forth ideas about, planting new trees back there and things like that, that we are more than willing to help out with.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to add that, actually, I think I met Heidi through the plantive of the natives last year. And Dove and I spent several hours in the woods walking around and finding good spots, digging ditches and kind of meeting people along the way. And this was such a wonderful introduction to the community. And it actually made me feel much closer to, sort of just made me embrace the area so much more. So I think, just sort of the point one alone, the cost is negligible compared to kind of what it would, what we could give back to the woods and kind of the personal satisfaction of having done it. It was really immeasurable. So thank you, Heidi.
And last year, it wasn't a normal year. People weren't congregating or anything like that. We didn't even do a kind of a formal cleanup like we've done in the past. We did two big cleanups of the woods, which took out, entire 10, 20 yard dumpsters full of garbage. Got it to a level where it was maintainable, through the work of all the volunteers and all the residents around here. We've been keeping it very clean. But I mean, the last real big event we did back there was with the Girl Scouts with the first round of invasive cleanup and plantings. And then Heidi, you kind of took over last year because, we didn't have another big event because we couldn't really. So as we're moving forward, again, there's a lot of good ideas here, and we're all ears, and we have the money to do some stuff.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks for listening.
Reports. Does anyone have anything they want to discuss?
I don't know if it's old business or not. I met with the state guy today on down by Billy's Way.
For the potholes?
Yeah, he said they filled them. They're about, that's the way we're going to have them for a while, because there's no money to basically to do what they want to go and do. The guy comes out, he said he was there 3 weeks ago and he fills them with hot patch, not the cold stuff. So that's why it's kind of staying. It's going to be a bumpy ride, but at least they're taking the holes out.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I have a feeling they're going to let it go to a point where they're going to do all 301 again in one shot. And
probably
we're probably about 5, 7, 10 years away from that. It's not going to be something that happens in the next couple of years.
It'll be like the last time. Went for years, he had a bumpy ride.
Yeah, for the people who weren't here back then, Nelsonville didn't have curbs. We hardly had sidewalks back then too.
So if I may, that's, kind of somewhat road related. So, the Jane's ice cream store and now Monet's. So now we have 3 different businesses on that little tiny stretch of the road, and it's getting really busy. We see a lot of families, some people come by cars, but I have been noticing a lot of children, like from pretty young children to older children riding bicycles, walking, going to the ice cream shop. and they cannot walk on that side of the road because there's no sidewalk. So they all have to cross the road at some point. And people just do not slow down. They do not slow down for me. They do not slow down for the children. And my husband and I have been growing increasingly concerned about that. I think it is literally a ticking time bomb that somebody will get hurt on that stretch of the road. Because I think a couple of weeks ago, when the first warm evening had happened, that area was really crowded. So, and once it gets dark, you can't see anybody. I think there needs to be a crosswalk there. Not that
Yeah.
people slow down and stop at crosswalks here, but at least, there needs to be some kind of sense.
State will not put a crosswalk there.
I mean, what would it take? A dead body? Like it's getting, I mean, we all know it, but having seen children just walking in pairs or, riding their bikes alongside the road, it is an attraction.
There were discussions a few years ago about expanding the sidewalk on the south side of 301 from where the ice cream shop is back into the village. The problem is the Sandy Saunders turn there. There's nowhere to put a sidewalk because there's a pretty big drop off on the other side of the guardrail. I don't know so you're talking about a crosswalk kind of right there at the intersection or farther up?
Maybe right where the shops are. It doesn't need to be that close to the actual fork. If we could, so the possibility of a sidewalk is a no-go. I mean, or at least could there be a sidewalk where the parking lot is? So that,
I mean, I don't see why. Maybe we can talk to the state, Dave, about if there's any, way to get an engineer to look at putting a sidewalk kind of from Allen's all the way back to Billy's Way. I mean, at least to there.
Yeah, we talked to them. The last time the engineer was the guy they sent down, I talked to. And they refused to put a sidewalk there. And I think when they did the road years ago, the gas pumps used to be technically where the big concrete blocks are.
Yeah.
So the write-off was, you keep the gas station, we'll put curbing in instead of a sidewalk. They wanted the sidewalk to run right across the whole front of that property and come out at Wood Avenue. But that was the swap off on the two. We'll give you a curbs instead of a sidewalk on that side of the street because they can't go all the way down that street, the south side of the street. But I've asked for crosswalks for years, and the state says they go too fast through here. We can't do it. It was one of the excuses they had.
Maybe somebody else is in office now. Try it. But yeah, I agree. It's extremely dangerous, and I don't think even putting a sidewalk on the other side is going to help it. I think a better idea would be a crosswalk.
But they won't put a crosswalk unless there's a sidewalk. That was one of the other.
It goes right to the business parking lot.
I mean, they're short of putting speed bumps there. I don't see how. I mean, how are we going to slow this traffic down that goes through there? I mean, we've tried everything basically. So yeah, I mean, we can have the discussion with the state again, and like Chris said, maybe there's someone else kind of in charge that's willing to hear us out.
Or how about one of those police speed signs? Every now and then we were able to get a speed sign.
Yeah, we've asked the sheriff's department. They had one in front of the sheriff's substation. Come to find out, it wasn't actually a speed reader, it was a license plate reader. So they were doing some scanning of license plates for some reason. But every time we ask the sheriff, the cops that work this side, they don't like those because they claim they don't work. We had looked into getting signs put up, like permanent fixture signs or ones that we could move from pole to pole coming down 301. I don't know where Mindy left off with that previously, but they were kind of giving us a hard time because they felt like they were going to be a waste of money. So,
and part of the problem is also when you're coming down 301, and as soon as you get around Jaycox, it's 40 miles an hour. When you hit the village line, it goes to 40 miles an hour. 100 yards past there into the village, it goes to 30. And I've asked the state, why is it 30? Why is it 40 and a 30? And he said it was something that was done in the village years ago where they okayed it. The village board okayed it a few years back.
So
So
we can unokay it, and
that's what we have to do. We have to get together, find that letter that was written and try to get it changed back so the speed limit is reduced to 40 on the top of the hill and 30 in the village where it's supposed to be.
all right. Let's check the village code and see what is in there about that stretch of road, and we can run it by Brian and see what we can do. Any other reports? The only thing I had was the street cleaning. Pauline, they're coming next week.
Yeah, the 29th.
So April 29th, we will post or have Mark post no parking on Main Street so that the street cleaner and the crew can get through the next day.
Yeah, the signs are made up for that already for the time. And I got to go up and talk to Carl about getting those red cones again, because some of the places we can't put the no parking signs up because it's all concrete, like in front of the Juanita's and the across the street at the beauty and hair place.
Yeah.
You know, so Carl last year bought us cones. He got cones. We put the things in the cones. This way people don't park until they go through and clean it. They're going to send a crew ahead of the sweeper to clean the curb out itself, so they get dirt out of the curb.
Yeah, and if you live along Main Street like I do and Dave does, just take the second to go out there and kind of scrape that stuff off from the curb so that, you know, we're sure to get it. I know that some of the sections along Main Street have actual trees starting to grow out of them, that the dust and dirt is so thick in there. Anything else for reports from anyone? Old business, I don't think we have anything. Chris, nothing. New business, refuse and recycle. I think everybody was here for the budget meeting ahead of time. Let's see if I have it. I'm gonna bring it up here quick. Draft. Everybody can see that. So again, it's a 3-year deal. We could do a 1-year deal, but it makes sense to do the 3-year just because it's a lower cost. Starting at $57,7640 for the first year, $58,9192 the second, $6,974 for the third. And as discussed in the budget meeting, it is still a great deal. And I'm more than happy that we kind of farm this out to an outside company because, you know, again, there's no benefits to have to pay to employees, no garbage trucks to buy or any of that. And we get 2 major cleanups a year, and they donate dumpsters when we need them for the woods cleanups and things like that. Anything on that before we move on?
You got to make a motion to accept it.
Is there a motion to accept the bid from Royal Karting?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? The marijuana law retail opt-out option. Chris, do you want to talk about that?
Yep. So I had the pleasure of tuning into a very long but very good meeting of NICOM last week on the law. As you may have seen in our excellent reporting in the Current and elsewhere, the state passed the marijuana law. The full name is the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, or the MRTA. It allows for a bunch of different things, but the things that pertain most to us legislatively is the option to opt out of allowing retail sales shops and or on-site consumption establishments in our village boundaries. If we would like to opt out, we have until December 31st, 2021. Essentially, we would be opting out of, if a shop were to come in, we would be eligible for 3% of the taxation on the sales of marijuana or products. There's a kind of complicated but doable process of opting out. We would do a local law. NICOM has even drafted local law for municipalities. They recommend timing it, if we were to do it, with our election, because it would come with the option of the referendum, the permissive referendum, sorry, new term for me. A permissive referendum would allow for a petition to be sponsored by residents with a 20% of the electorate from the previous general village election to essentially petition against the local law to have these retail shops. If that petition was successful in the number of signers, then we would have to have in our next local election pretty much a ballot referendum to up or down it. So if no petition or not enough signatures are on it, then the local law would become law within 30 days. So, and then also, yeah, with the timing that's recommended, they would recommend later in the year, closer to that December deadline, so that it would, there's like a timing that you need to have post adoption to election. So
Chris, how does that work out? Do we have to the end of the year to opt out, or is it to start the opt-out process if we end up in that kind
to
of
pass that law?
Okay, so how does that work with the local election if we end up in the kind of referendum path, if our elections are in March?
Right, so we would have to time it to pretty close to the end of 2021. Okay. For the March election. And then, you know, if we do opt out, we do have the option of opting back in, but if we don't opt out, we can never opt out at a later date. So it's kind of a safe way to go to do the opt out. And the regulations on said retail establishments are yet to be determined. They're still working on that. There's a commission at the state level. So there's, you know, kind of a lot of unknowns. For the rest of the MRTA, you know, it kind of is the same applications as having alcohol or other smoking laws that are already on the books. You know, we wouldn't be okay with public spaces with smoking. We wouldn't be okay with smoking marijuana in public spaces. But pretty much possession and your home use is your business under this new law. So we will probably be talking about this more in the future and discussing whether we want to do this, the opt-out, but so that's just a summary for now.
Any other questions on that before we move on? All right, next up is close the Bowman fund and move it into the fund recreation account. Do we need a motion for that, Pauline?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to close the Ronald Bowman Memorial account and roll those funds into the general recreation account. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion or all those in favor?
Favor.
Next up is to close the capital account. This is the one with, it had 32 cents in it or something like that.
No, it's got $1,400. It was
14.
the Healy Road one.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the other one.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to close the capital account and move those funds into the general fund?
Motion that was, and just for everybody's knowledge, that was leftover funds from the Healy project.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Budget line transfers.
I got a bunch of those.
All right, you want to walk through these?
Okay. I'm trying to move enough money so that we can get to the end of the fiscal year without having to do this again. So I've got the clerk personal, because of Mindy leaving and me taking over, there's a $990 gap that needs to be fixed. And we can take that out of the contingency line item. The assistant clerk, again, because of me working more hours the previous 2 weeks, we just need $54 to cover that. And that we can take out of the records management, which is part of what I've been using for the payroll for that. And the clerk codification, we've been doing a lot of public and legal notices for the paper. So that's kind of running high. And so we just need about $200 from that. Again, we could take it out of the contingency.
We have 100 here.
200. Oh, you didn't get the updated one, sorry.
Okay, so that's 200.
Yeah, because I just did the vouchers.
All right.
The elections, we went over on the elections because basically we had 2 elections in one pay period.
Yeah, because the COVID postponement.
Because of the COVID, right. So I need 400 out of that, of the contingency again.
Yep.
Contractual is running high. I'm not quite sure why we didn't put enough in there to begin with, or why it's running so high at this point. But we need at least $1,300 to cover that. Again, out of the contingency.
What's in that line again?
That's that would be cleaning, that would be the maintenance machine, the copier machine, anything that we have a contract with. The supplies for the card, the Visa card that we have.
Okay.
So again, I'm not sure why that is running so high. The telephone, that I think is a little over because Bajorski does his stipend for his cell phone.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was probably looked into when we did it originally. So we need $100 for that. And then you don't have the street maintenance on that. That one was over because of the work we did for Pearl Street. And we were taking that money out of CHIPS.
Yep.
So we need the $22,510 to balance that out. And we're taking that out of the CHIPS account. And last,
I'm just gonna see if I can find the updated one.
the updated one of what I'm showing you.
Yeah,
No, you don't have that probably.
okay,
I just added those today because when I was looking at the end.
all right.
All right, so that's the only one in there that's not. And Social Security. We need $1,500 and $1,550, again, out of the contingency. So basically, I'm taking $54 out of records management, $4,540 out of contingency, and $22,510 out of CHIPS. And so that'll leave $4,349.89 in the contingency line item and $7,490 in the CHIPS line item.
$7,490.
Yeah, 7,490, because there's 30,000 in there now.
Is everyone clear on that as they can be? Sorry, I don't have the new one up here. But the two differences again were the CHIPS funds are not on here.
And the $200 for clerk codification.
Oh, that's supposed to be 200.
Yeah.
Any questions on that?
And hopefully we won't have to make any more budget line changes at the end of May, because that's the close of our books.
Yep. Is there a motion to make these budget line transfers?
Motion.
A motion.
Nobody wants to accept it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Just the one thing I would say is under the building contractual, let's just kind of drill into that and see where that money's coming from.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had requested that of Mindy in previous meetings, but we didn't get that.
Yeah, and we were going to discuss about the cleaners as well at some point. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
probably dropping it from twice a month to once a month.
Yeah.
And well, also the contractual, I believe, the Zooms and the web costs are on there as well.
Yeah, that it probably part of that is the ny.gov renewal. I know that came up. Zoom isn't a huge expense. I think it's like maybe $100 or something like that. Yeah, we'll just figure that out and come report it back next meeting. There's a motion seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All righty. Let's see. What else do we have? Before we open to the floor, I guess we should probably formally adopt the budget too, shouldn't we, Pauline?
Yes.
Chris, you had some like bullet points of the budget you wanted to discuss before we did that?
Yeah, I just wanted to give some high-level highlights, you know, of kind of like what the budget accomplishes. We had 5 budget hearings over the course of the last 2 months.
I think that's a record.
I'm sorry?
That might be a record.
Yeah. Well, we had our new trustees come on, and we wanted to make sure that they were up to speed, of course. So, you know, I think we're all very pleased that this budget does not raise taxes for our residents for the 2nd year in a row. We were able to make key investments with road paving for Secor in the coming year, as well as a new roof and gutters to protect Village Hall. This budget also increases the rent on the sheriff's substation for necessary maintenance and insurance increases from the current $12,000 a year to $18,000 a year within 4 years on that 5-year contract. We are also happy to plan for the long overdue fire inspections to protect the village, as well as planning contingencies for any necessary cell tower construction oversight and the potential startup for the STR permitting process. And overall, we're pleased to present a reasonable and responsible budget that is well accounted for and works hard for our residents. If anybody else wanted to comment or.
I just wanted to give a huge thank you to you for spearheading this whole process and for, you know, really drilling down into the numbers and making us as financially conservative as we really could be. And, you know, it does speak volumes that for the 2nd year in a row, we're not going to raise taxes. We're not seeking a 2%, you know, tax cap increase or anything like that. And we're getting things done. So thank you. Any other thoughts? All right. Is there a motion to adopt the tentative 2021-22 budget?
That's the final budget.
Final
Not
budget.
tentative.
Well, we're adopting the tentative to make it the final. Is there a motion?
Let me make a motion.
Dave made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Kathleen,
That was Marie.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you very much. Open to the floor. If anyone has not had spoken who wants to, by all means, unmute yourself now.
I just want to say good job. Very good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria.
Michael, also, I noticed the sheriffs aren't letting their cars sit there as long. I do notice that running.
Well, I've only seen them one at a time. I'll say that. I guess that's an improvement.
Yeah, it's one at a time. You're right.
Yeah.
It's not like 3 or 4. So it did go good. And
Good.
thank you all. And thank you, Heidi, for the woods. I have a lot of memories from being a kid playing in those woods and ice skating. So thank you.
Thank you, Gloria.
Hey, Gloria, I don't know if you saw the picture on our Facebook feed, but James Pond was bigger this year than I've seen it in my life, I think.
I did say it. I couldn't believe how big it is.
And
Right.
did you see, Gloria, there's a mallard duck couple that I think are nesting there. So I think we're gonna get babies.
Oh,
So-
wow. I'll have to check it out. Thank you.
Yeah, we have mallards on the pond.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Anyone else? Liz?
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So I asked at the last meet or some meeting last month if we could have a recycling committee, because I mean I think everyone's being very careful to segregate their recycling material, but I'm a little bit worried that we're not actually getting recycling. Sorry. We have oh, we're sorry.
I don't know what I'm doing off.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I just muted myself to make sure it wasn't
Detector
mine.
just went off. Is it too annoying? Okay. Anyway, maybe I'll try to go upstairs. So, what I'm a little bit concerned about is that our recycling is not actually being taken to recycling and is instead being thrown in the garbage. And just to make sure that we're not all like taking the effort to put things in the recycling and it's not actually going there, I think we should have a committee to look into it.
That, and I also, I'll offer you that if you want, I can put you in touch with our Royal Karting contact, and maybe we can go up there and do kind of a tour of the facility.
Yeah.
I know we've
I
done
think
that.
that'd be great. Yeah. And
All right.
actually there was an amazing person from Putnam County who met at the Eco Day that was associated with the Earth Day that the Phillipstown Garden Club organized a couple years ago. I think her name was Jessica something. I could try to figure it out. Who knows exactly what can be recycled and what can't, and how all these things, like the separate waste streams and what makes sense to recycle and what doesn't. And so maybe we could have that person come in and kind of consult with us to make sure that we're not just wasting our time separating the waste streams and that things are actually being recycled. So I think that would make a lot of sense, because I have noticed that I think Cold Spring does separate additional items from the waste stream, like maybe paper versus other types of waste. I think we should just make sure that we're doing something that makes sense and not just like separating the quote garbage from the recyclables and it's not really being recycled.
Whatever goes in the blue can, that gets recycled. That's the recyclable can we do at Royal. That doesn't go to the dump. That goes in that separate spot up there at the dump, up at their place.
Yeah, but Heidi's question is, and hopefully I can put her in touch, or we can go up there and take a tour of it, is that it's being sorted once it gets to
That's my question, Dave, because I'm just wondering if it really does get recycled. I know that's the idea, but there's like different elements of recyclables. And I just want to make sure that people are not like separating things. I think we are doing a really good job here, but I just want to make sure that it's actually getting recycled, or we're doing whatever we can to make sure that it can be recycled to the extent possible. If it can't be, it can't be, but you know, whatever we can do so we're not wasting our time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely get the name of your contact, and in the meantime, I'll reach out to
I'll
Roy.
find that person's name. It's a really lovely lady from Putnam County who's in charge of like recycling for Putnam County. And the other thing I wanted to say is I am in favor of opting out from the marijuana law.
Mhm.
I think we should opt out. So whatever I can do to assist in that process, I do not think we should have people driving under the influence of marijuana. I mean, I realize that there's, you know, so it's a little, I know we can't go back to prohibition, and I get it that people are probably driving under the influence of alcohol, but I don't see we don't have any bars in this town, and I don't think we should have any marijuana shops here. I'm opposed. So whatever we can do to ensure that we don't have that, I would be happy to assist.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
my
you.
2 cents.
Liz, do you have something you wanted to ask? I don't know if it's not allowing you to mute or unmute. Try that. There you go.
Okay. The budget that you guys just approved, is that the one that was from, I think it was dated the 14th of April?
No, there's been an incarnation of it all the way up till today. We can send you the latest.
Yeah, if you could do that, because I'm sorry, I thought you guys were starting at 7:30 again, and I missed the first, like.
So did I. That's why we were late.
So anyway, but yeah, so I missed the budget discussion, but if you could just send me the final documents, the one that matters anyway, so.
Yeah, there's an adjusted hub number that will get on there tomorrow morning, and then Pauline will send it off to you first thing.
Okay, thank you. And then also, I heard the reference to Mindy having left the village. So has she retired, or I don't want to get into personal stuff, but just to.
No, Mindy took another position with DA Tendy's office in Putnam County.
Oh, okay.
So in the meantime, Pauline is going to be the interim until we're advertising for a new full-time clerk, and because Pauline she refuses to stay on any longer. So, you know, she retired once, and but we would definitely have her for as long as we could, but we're searching for someone new. It's advertised in your paper and the PCNR, and I believe we're going to put it on our website as well.
Okay, well, should be interesting.
Yeah.
Good luck with the search.
Thank you.
I think that's it. If I think of anything else overnight, as I sometimes do, I'll just email you guys in the morning.
All righty. Thank you very much. Anybody else for public comment before we close it up? Going once, going twice. If nobody has anything, is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a great evening, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks.
Aye.
And everyone.